Ever wonder why some men work their entire lives and end up with nothing to show for it? They had good jobs, they made decent money, they did everything they were supposed to do. But when they hit 60, 65, 70, they're still working, still stressed about money, still can't retire. And here's what nobody wants to talk about. Sometimes the reason isn't bad luck or poor planning, it's the woman they chose to stay with. I'm not talking about divorce. That's a whole different conversation. I'm talking about something more insidious, the slow financial drain that happens when a man stays with the wrong woman for years, decades, and doesn't realize the true cost until it's too late. In the next few minutes, I'm going to walk you through the real financial impact of staying with the wrong woman after 50. Not the emotional cost, not the psychological toll, the actual dollars and cents that disappear from your life when you're with someone who doesn't build with you. Some of what I'm about to share might be uncomfortable. Some of it might make you look at your own situation differently. Either way, by the end, you'll understand why the most expensive decision a man can make isn't buying the wrong house or the wrong car, it's staying with the wrong woman. Before we get into it, let me ask you something. Are you in a relationship that you suspect is costing you more than it should? Comment yes if you are. Comment no if you're not. I'm genuinely curious. And if you're finding value in this, hit that like button and subscribe. It helps more men find these conversations when they need them. All right, let's get into it. Cost 1. Lifestyle inflation. Here's the first cost, and it's one most men don't see coming. She has expectations, standards, a lifestyle she wants to maintain or achieve, and you're the one funding it. Maybe when you were younger, it made sense. You were building a life together, you wanted to provide, you wanted her to be happy. But now you're over 50, and instead of scaling back, instead of preparing for retirement, instead of building wealth, you're still spending like you're 35. Because she wants the nice house, the new car every few years, the vacations, the designer clothes, the dinners out, the latest tech, the home renovations. And here's the thing, none of it is technically unreasonable on its own, but when you add it all up, when you look at what you're spending versus what you're saving, the numbers don't work. According to financial research from Fidelity Investments, couples who maintain high discretionary spending into their 50s and 60s are significantly more likely to face retirement shortfalls. The failure to reduce lifestyle expenses during peak earning years is one of the top predictors of financial stress in retirement. Translation: if you're still living like you're building a life instead of preparing for the next phase, you're heading for trouble. And here's what makes this particularly painful for men over 50. You're running out of time. You can't just work another decade to make up the difference. Your body won't let you. Your energy won't let you. The job market won't let you. But she doesn't seem to care. Or maybe she does, but not enough to adjust her expectations. So you keep working, you keep spending, you keep delaying retirement. Because the alternative, telling her no, setting boundaries, scaling back, feels impossible. It feels like you'd be letting her down. But here's the question you need to ask. How much is this lifestyle actually costing you? Not just in dollars, but in years, in stress, in the retirement you're not building. Because every dollar you spend on maintaining her lifestyle is a dollar you don't have for your future. And that's a trade you might regret when you're 70 and still can't afford to stop working. Cost 2. Supporting her family and friends. Here's the second cost, and this one's subtle but massive. You're not just supporting her, you're supporting her entire network. Her adult kids who can't seem to get their lives together, her sister who's always in some kind of financial crisis, her parents who need help with medical bills or living expenses, her friends who borrow money and never pay it back, and you're the ATM. Not because you want to be, but because she asks and you love her, and saying no feels cruel. But here's what's actually happening. Your money, the money you worked for, the money you need for your own future, is being redistributed to people who aren't your responsibility. And the worst part? Nobody's grateful. They just expect it. And when you do help, it's never enough. There's always another crisis, another emergency, another person who needs bailing out. According to a survey by Bankrate, nearly 60% of Americans have provided financial support to family members or close friends. And among those who did, over 40% reported that it negatively impacted their own financial security. Translation: you're sacrificing your future to fund other people's present, and they're not losing sleep over it. And here's what you need to understand. After 50, you can't afford to be everyone's safety net. You have a finite number of earning years left. Every dollar you give away is a dollar you won't have when you need it most. But she doesn't see it that way. To her, helping family is what you do. It's non-negotiable. And if you push back, you're selfish, you're cold, you're not being a team player. But being a team player doesn't mean funding everyone else's mistakes. And being generous doesn't mean lighting your own financial future on fire to keep other people warm. So ask yourself, how much of your money is going to people who aren't contributing to your household? And what would your retirement look like if you'd saved that money instead? Because those numbers are probably terrifying. Cost 3, the career sacrifices you made for her. Here's the third cost, and this one's about opportunity. The things you didn't do, the chances you didn't take, the career moves you passed on because she didn't want to relocate or she didn't want your schedule to change. You had opportunities, maybe a promotion that required moving to a different city, maybe a job offer that would have doubled your income but meant longer hours, maybe a business idea that could have set you up for life but required risk. And you said no, not because you didn't want it, but because she didn't want it. And at the time, it felt like the right decision. You were putting the relationship first. You were being considerate. You were being a good partner. But now you're over 50 and you're looking at what could have been, the money you could have made, the career you could have built, the financial security you could have had, and it's gone. Not because you failed, but because you never got the chance to try. According to research from the Harvard Business Review, men who make career sacrifices for their relationships report higher levels of regret as they age, particularly if the relationship doesn't remain fulfilling or if financial strain becomes a significant issue. Translation: the sacrifices you made for her happiness might end up being the source of your resentment, especially if she's not sacrificing anything in return. And here's the part that really stings. She probably doesn't even remember the opportunities you turned down. They weren't her dreams, they were yours. And when you let them go, they just disappeared from the conversation. But you remember, and every time you're stressed about money, every time retirement feels impossible, you think about those decisions and you wonder, what if? Because those sacrifices weren't just about career, they were about earning potential. And earning potential over time is massive. If you'd taken that job 15 years ago, you'd be making a certain amount more per year. Multiply that by 15 years, add the compound interest on what you could have saved. Now you're looking at hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe more. That's the real cost of saying no to your career for someone else's comfort. And you can't get it back. If you're still with me, drop a 1 in the comments right now. Cost 4, the debt she brought and keeps creating. Here's the fourth cost, her debt, the debt she came into the relationship with, the debt she keeps creating, and the fact that somehow it's now your problem. Maybe it's credit cards, maybe it's student loans from degrees she never used, maybe it's a car loan, personal loans, or medical debt. Whatever it is, it's there, and it's eating into your finances. And here's what happens. You start helping. You pay off a little here, a little there, you consolidate, you refinance, you cover minimum payments so she doesn't fall behind, and you think you're making progress. You think you're getting ahead. But then she racks up more. New charges, new loans, new expenses she couldn't resist. And you're right back where you started, except now you're older and you have less time to recover.
According to data from the Federal Reserve, credit card debt among people over 50 has increased dramatically over the past 2 decades, with many citing spousal spending as a contributing factor. Translation: you're not alone. A lot of men are funding someone else's financial irresponsibility, and it's killing their retirement plans. And here's the psychological trap. You feel responsible. You're in this together, right? Her debt is your debt. Her mistakes are your mistakes. But that's only true if she's actively working to fix it, if she's changed her behavior, if she's stopped creating new debt. If she hasn't, then you're not solving a problem, you're enabling a pattern, and that pattern is costing you your future. So ask yourself, how much of your income is going toward debt that you didn't create? And what would your financial situation look like if that money was going into savings instead?
Because that's the real cost, not just the debt itself, but the opportunity cost of what you could have built with that money. Cost 5, the retirement you're funding alone. Here's the 5th cost, and this one's about the future. You're planning for retirement, but you're planning for 2, and she's not contributing. Maybe she doesn't work. Maybe she works part-time and doesn't make enough to save. Maybe she works full-time but spends everything she makes and expects you to handle retirement. Whatever the case, the burden is on you. You're the one maxing out the 401k. You're the one opening IRAs. You're the one thinking about healthcare costs, long-term care, and what happens if one of you gets sick. And she's not. And here's what that means financially. You need to save double. Not just enough for you, enough for both of you, for decades. According to Fidelity's retirement savings guidelines, a couple retiring at 65 should have saved approximately 10 times their combined annual income. But if only one person is earning and saving, that target becomes nearly impossible to reach. Translation: you're trying to do the work of 2 people, and it's not sustainable. And here's the part that keeps men up at night. What happens if you can't do it? What happens if you get to 65 and the money isn't there? You can't just decide not to retire. You're going to age out of the workforce whether you're ready or not. But she doesn't seem worried about it because in her mind, you'll figure it out. You always do. And maybe you will, but at what cost? How many more years will you have to work? How much stress will you carry? How much of your retirement will you spend just trying to survive instead of actually enjoying life? Because that's what happens when one person is funding a retirement for 2. You don't get to relax. You don't get to travel. You don't get to do the things you worked your whole life for. You just get to scrape by together. And that's not the retirement you dreamed of. Cost 6, the peace of mind you've lost. Here's the 6th cost, and it's harder to quantify, but just as real. Your peace of mind, your ability to sleep at night without worrying about money. Because when you're with the wrong woman financially, money is always a source of stress. You're always calculating, always worrying, always wondering if you'll have enough. You can't enjoy what you have because you're too worried about losing it. You can't spend on yourself because you feel guilty. You can't make plans because you don't know if the money will be there. And that stress, it's killing you, literally. According to research from the American Psychological Association, chronic financial stress is linked to higher rates of heart disease, high blood pressure, depression, and anxiety. And for men over 50, financial stress is one of the leading predictors of poor health outcomes. Translation: the financial cost of staying with the wrong woman after 50 isn't just about money, it's about your health, your quality of life, your longevity. And here's what makes this particularly tragic. You've worked hard, you've done everything right, you've earned the right to feel secure, but you don't because the woman you're with is a financial liability, and as long as you're with her, that stress isn't going away. So you have to ask yourself, is this relationship worth your health? Is it worth your peace? Is it worth dying younger because you're too stressed about money to take care of yourself? Because that's not hypothetical, that's what's happening. And no relationship is worth that. Cost 7,
the exit cost if you wait too long. And now we get to the final cost, the one that ties everything together, the cost of leaving. Because here's the brutal truth. If you stay with the wrong woman long enough, leaving becomes financially catastrophic. The longer you're together, the more entangled your finances become. Joint accounts, joint assets, joint debts. And if you're married, the stakes are even higher. Because if you leave at 60, 65, 70, you're looking at splitting everything: the house, the savings, the retirement accounts, everything you worked for cut in half. And then you're starting over at an age when you can't afford to start over. According to research from Bowling Green State University, the divorce rate among people over 50 has doubled in the past 2 decades, and divorced men in this age group face significantly higher rates of poverty and financial instability than their married counterparts. Translation: leaving is expensive, staying might be worse, but either way, you're in a financial trap. And here's what makes this so painful. If you'd left earlier, at 45, at 50, at 55, you'd have had time to rebuild, time to recover, time to create a new financial future. But you didn't. You stayed. And now the cost of leaving might be more than you can afford. So you're stuck, not because you want to be, but because the financial reality of leaving is too overwhelming to face. And that's the real cost of staying with the wrong woman after 50. You lose your options, you lose your freedom, you lose the ability to make a different choice because you waited too long. So let's bring this all together. The financial cost of staying with the wrong woman after 50 is massive, and it's not just one thing, it's everything. It's the lifestyle inflation she demands, it's supporting her family and friends, it's the career sacrifices you made, it's the debt she brought and keeps creating, it's the retirement you're funding alone, it's the peace of mind you've lost, and it's the exit cost if you wait too long. Add it all up, and you're looking at hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe more. Money you could have saved, money you could have invested, money you could have used to build the retirement you actually wanted. But instead, it's gone, and you're left wondering how you ended up here. And here's what I want you to understand. This isn't about being cheap. This isn't about not valuing your relationship. This is about recognizing that a partnership should build wealth, not destroy it. The right woman doesn't drain your finances. She contributes, she plans with you, she sacrifices with you. She understands that your financial security is her financial security. But the wrong woman, she takes, she expects, she demands, and she doesn't care if it costs you your future. And after 50, you don't have time to recover from that. You don't have decades to rebuild. You have maybe 10 to 15 years of solid earning potential left. And every year you spend with the wrong woman is a year you can't get back. So you have a choice to make, and it's not an easy one. You can stay, you can keep funding the lifestyle, keep supporting everyone else, keep sacrificing your future for someone who isn't sacrificing theirs, or you can be honest with yourself about what this relationship is actually costing you, not just emotionally, financially, and you can decide whether that cost is worth it. Because here's the hard truth. Some men stay and they end up working until they die because they can't afford to retire. They end up broke, stressed, resentful, and they die wondering what their life could have been if they'd made a different choice. Don't be that man. You've worked too hard. You've sacrificed too much. You deserve better than spending your final years stressed about money because you stayed with someone who didn't value what you were building. So take a hard look at your finances, add up the real cost, and ask yourself, is this sustainable, or am I sacrificing my future for someone else's present? Because the answer to that question might be the most important financial decision you ever make. What's your experience? Are you in a relationship that's costing you more than it should? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'd genuinely like to hear your perspective. And if this gave you clarity or made you think about things differently, I'd appreciate it if you'd subscribe. There's more real talk like this coming, and you don't want to miss it. Thank you for spending this time with me. I'll see you in the next one.